Hey kids, Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Well, February is shot by, February 2020 already gone, soon be Christmas. Anyway, what that means of course it being the end of the month, time for another bike review. 4 papers to go through. If you're interested in what's been going on in the world of motorcycles here in the UK for the month of February 2020, stick around and stay tuned. Alright, and just before we get on to the news review, just to let you know, at the end of this video, I am going to do some parish notices. Not Paris notices, as somebody mentioned the other day. I have no idea what they are, but parish notices. Just to tell you a little bit about what's coming up on the channel and some bits and pieces of news that I want to tell you as well if you're a regular viewer. So stick around to the end of the video to watch that. Alright, without further ado, let's crack on with the papers then. Loads been going on in the last month and lots of stories to get through. So grab yourself a brew as usual. This is probably going to be quite a long video. Alright, first story then I've pulled out from the first paper here. Ducati send in more pros. Now this is the new Scrambler 1100 and they've come up with a couple of new Scrambler 1100 models. One is called the 1100 Pro and one is called the Sport Pro. Now I rode the old Scrambler 1100 when I did my tour in Tuscany last year, which I really loved. I didn't like the original Ducati Scrambler. I just found it a little bit toy-like, but the 1100 I absolutely loved. It's a beautiful bike. Well, they've now come out with these that have got some more bling attached. So what's the difference then? First off, they've got new exhaust, which looks rather splendid. The way the bends go, it's all sort of, you know, looks like one of those custom exhausts almost. Looks really good. They've got a shorter mudguard, improved seat and lower number plate, as well as new graphics and colours. So it's sort of an upgrade, really, you know, a mild upgrade. They also meet Euro 5 regulations, which I guess is the real reason why they've come out with these bikes. Makes the same 85 brake horsepower and 65 foot-pound as the current models. On the Sport Pro, it gets Olin suspension, lower bars, Cafe Racer style mirrors and comes in a matte black paint job, and the Pro gets an ocean drive scheme. They both also get funky new headlights apparently, but yeah, looks good, looks really nice. No word on price yet. The current bike, the Scrambler 1100 Sport, is 12,395, so expecting the Sport Pro to be in that sort of ballpark, so say 12.5 grand, and the Pro about 11.5 grand is expectations. And they think that we're going to be seeing them, when does it say? Round about end of March, so end of next month we should start seeing these hitting the streets. So yeah, maybe get a ride on one. Does look lovely, and it's going to be no worse than the old bike, which was a lovely bike. So if you're interested in the Scrambler 1100, maybe wait a bit because this new model is just around the corner. Alrighty, next story here. Triumph go big to go small. Interesting this. Now Triumph a while back, in fact it was back in, it says here somewhere, 2013, announced that they were going to do a partnership with a company called Bajaj, something like B-A-J, which is a massive Indian company, and they signed a deal back then, but then they kind of put that on hold while they did a revamp of their big capacity motorcycles. That's now finished, the revamping, so they're back into this this partnership. They've sort of re-announced it in the last couple of weeks. So what they've said is they're going to do a long-term partnership building a new range of mid-capacity motorcycles, which is music to my ears. I think a mid-capacity is where biking's at. A new range of lower capacity Triumphs is likely to arrive in British and European dealers as a result. We'll see the two companies collaborate to design, engineer and manufacture a new range of 200cc to 750cc motorbikes. That is amazing. Imagine 200cc Triumph, that is right up my street. So what this means for Triumph, of course, is more brand awareness around the globe. Bajaj is a massive company. I think they already do something with KTM, so they're well experienced in these sort of joint venture activities to scale up stuff. They're going to take over Indian distribution activities, exploiting their regional expertise, and then the new model range is going to join the rest of the Triumphs in the rest of the world dealers. So they're going to see these throughout the dealer network worldwide, and they see it as a huge opportunity to cash in, it says here, on the firm's heritage by producing a baby Bonneville and maybe even a Tiger Cub as well. So really looking forward to seeing those. The MCN say they're expecting to see new products emerging rapidly, with the end of the year shows likely to reveal prototypes in various capacities. So this year's NEC show, we'll see something coming out of this tie-up with Bajaj, or Baja. Maybe somebody tell me how that's actually pronounced. I'm sure somebody knows, so I'll get that right next time. But yeah, that's amazing as far as I'm concerned. We'll have all the usual people saying, you know, I'm not buying a Triumph if it's made in India. Don't know why not. My Enfield was made in India. It's brilliant. Triumph already makes stuff in Thailand. They're brilliant. As long as the quality control is there, who cares where they're made? Anyway, so yeah, looking forward to that, and should ensure that Triumph, you know, go from strength to strength into the future as well. Absolutely great. And if that makes them more of a global player, that's all right with me. Alright, good stuff. Okay, next story here. Flexible Friend is the headline, and this is the new BMW F900XR, which I have actually now ridden since this story came out. So a few highlights here for the XR. This is the sort of, again, mid-range sport touring type bike that we saw again at the show. Well, you went to the London show over the last weekend. Last weekend? Yes. Then you would have seen this bike there. As I say, I've been lucky enough to ride it. It is at the dealers now. It's 9,825, the F900XR, and it's designed to compete with the likes of the Yamaha Tracer. If you haven't seen my review, by the way, I'll stick a link up in the corner, that corner I think it is, so you can go and have a look at that after you've seen the bike news. Basically, the Tracer 900 has turned out to be Europe's third best-selling bike behind the R1250 GS and the Africa Twin, so BMW want a little bit of that action, not surprisingly. The F900XR puts out 105 brake horsepower at 8,500 RPM, so proper, you know, a proper amount of power, not too much that's going to, you know, put you in danger every time you go and ride it, but more than enough to overtake, etc. The bodywork is looks great. It's plastic welded, which apparently is a world first on a motorcycle. Didn't know that. 15.5 litre tank. It says here, amazingly well sorted before you even reach third gear, and you'll feel completely confident out at home within about half a mile. I agree with that. As I say, I rode the bike. I really liked it. Yamaha's Tracer is faster and a bit lighter on its feet, but the BMW makes up for it with unflappable usability, and importantly, this gets BMW's, as far as I'm concerned, class-leading TFT. I'm not a massive fan of TFT screens, but this gets the BMW one. If you're going to have a TFT, that is the one to have. I thought, in terms of comparison with the Tracer, I love the Tracer 900. I've got a review of that kicking around somewhere on the channel as well if you're interested. Really nice bike. I just felt the XR felt a little bit more plasticky, plasticky. The Tracer just seemed, rode lovely, but it just seemed a little bit flimsy to me, whereas the Beamer seems a bit more of a quality bike. But thumbs up from me on the XR. I'm going to get one of these for long-term loan from BMW UK in a month or two, so there'll be a lot more on the channel coming up on the XR if you're interested in that bike. All right, final story here in the first paper. Sizing up the competition is the headline, and this is one of these MCN 250 comparisons that they do quite often, and this is something that comes up occasionally. This is the Speed Triple versus the Street Triple. You know, it's the old is bigger, always best. Again, I'm lucky enough to have ridden both these bikes. They're lovely machines. The Speed Triple RS, 13,600. The Street Triple, 10,300, so 3.5 grand thereabouts between them. Is the Speed Triple worth all that extra? Well, let's jump straight to the verdict and see what MCN said. They said that Triumph have elevated the Speed Triple into the Super Naked Elite. It's now easily one of the most accomplished road bikes money can buy, so they like it. I liked it when I rode it. The Speed Triple RS is Triumph's finest ever roadster, faster, less manic and more refined than its little brother. It also proves you don't need monster super naked power for the road. So maybe a little dig there at people like KTM with the Super Duke R, new one of those just out. Little dig there, I suspect. In terms of their verdict, they've said in terms of value for money, the Street Triple RS is the one to go for. But for ultimate three-cylinder naked kicks, it's the Speed Triple RS all the way. So money no object. Go for the Speedy, they're saying. If money is more of a concern, and who isn't it for, then the Street Triple is the one to have. I'm obviously a Street Triple fan. I've got one of those myself. I absolutely love it. Mine's an old one though. But I did ride the Speed Triple a while back, the new one, and I have to say it is a lovely bike, money no object. Yeah, there's no reason now, I don't think, to not have it. In the past, the Speed Triple felt quite heavy in comparison to the Street Triple. They seem to have got around that somehow using some clever magic. It now feels a nice light bike too, so yeah, Speed Triple, one to have there, they reckon. Alrighty, there we go. That was a very quick whiz through the first paper. Next one. Okay, here we go. 6 stories I've pulled out of the second paper for the review this week. New BMW R is ready to roll, and this is another bike allied. We just mentioned the new F900XR. This is the F900R, which is a very similar bike, similar sort of frame, similar sort of power, similar sort of cost, just doesn't have the fairing. This one, 103 brake horsepower, 815mm seat height. This is 8,660, so a little bit cheaper than the XR. I've also ridden this and have a video. I'll put a link in the corner if you haven't seen that already. It says here, affordable, dynamic new F900R roadster to hit the dealers in a couple of weeks. Well, it is now in the dealers. I've seen it there, so I know that's true. As I say, 8,660. Designed to compete again with the Yamaha MT-09, which is 8,542, so about 50 quid, 60 quid cheaper. And also things like the Kawasaki Z900, which of course is an inline 4, which is 8,692. So lots of bikes in this particular corner of the market now. I enjoyed riding it. In fact, I enjoyed this more than the F900XR, the faired version. I don't know why. It just felt I preferred the riding position. It felt a bit more like a street triple, actually. You leant forward a little bit more on it, a little bit more sporty, more front end bias. I really, really liked it. It says here, this is the fittest parallel twin BMW yet, with a deep rumble from its 270-degree crank and sharp acceleration in lower gears. Well, as I say, ride them both if you're interested in these models, but I personally preferred the naked model. I think I'm the only person I've come across that did. Most people, there are some other reviews out there on the internet now as well. If you look at them, I'm sure if you're interested in that bike, you've seen them. And most people seem to prefer the XR, but I actually prefer the naked for some reason. Well, the reason being the riding position, actually. I just thought it was better. Okie dokie. Now, in last month's bike news, you remember I mentioned that Norton was having some issues around its pension scheme, and also there was a court hearing set for later in February to look at whether it was going to go into administration. Well, things have moved on. You won't have missed this. This has been all over social media, all over the biking press. Norton has actually effectively collapsed now. It's gone into administration. It's such a shame, I think, because we all had high hopes for Norton, didn't we? But it looks like it's the end for Norton unless a buyer can be found. Basically, this article is mentioning people like Royal Enfield, whether they could potentially buy the Norton brand. Bajaj, who we mentioned earlier on the last paper, but they've of course got this tie-up now with Triumph, so they're likely focused there. Mahindra could see value in Norton, or another Indian brand, of course. They already own the BSA brand. We haven't seen anything from that. We mentioned Mahindra and BSA on Bike News about 2 years ago. What's happened to that? I'd love to see BSA come back. And KTM and Husqvarna boss Stefan Perry has also formed for scooping up businesses like this, apparently. So that would be an interesting hookup, wouldn't it? KTM. Very interesting. I also mentioned last month, wouldn't it be great if Triumph scooped them up and ran them as like a separate brand? In fact, Triumph have mentioned that they've no interest in picking up the brand, so that's it. That's a blind alley. Anyway, so real shame, gone down the pan. Seems like Stuart Garner's coming in for a real kicking. I understand why. Looks like there's been some fairly strange practices going on at Norton, of which more in a later newspaper. But a real shame. Looks like that's the end for Norton. It now enters an 8-week window in which the business could be sold, it says here, and this is dated February the 5th, so that's a few weeks ago now. So it's got an 8-week window. It's probably got about 4 weeks to run to see if it can be sold or an investor found. If none comes forward, the company is placed into receivership and its assets are sold in an attempt to repay its creditors. Unfortunately, people that have put money on the new Atlases often come quite low down in the list of creditors. So whether you'll get your money back, I don't know. I hope you put that on a credit card so you can perhaps reclaim the money from a credit card. If not, my heart goes out to you. So yeah, real bad news, that one. Nasty end to what could have been good. And then there's another story actually on this page. Norton pension scheme fallout continues. That was the story that we talked about last month. But the reason why I've come to this page in particular is because although it seems like it's the end for Norton, it's not the end of Norton in the TT, because there is a team still going to be running a Norton at the TT. Maybe it'll be the last year we see that. So in January, Smith's Racing announced they would campaign a Norton Superlight this year. So they own one of these bikes and they are going to run it. They said the deal we had in place was basically that we own the bike, we've taken the bike on ourselves, and all the money that we will spend on or develop the bike is from our own pocket. So there's no reason why anything will change. Norton haven't given us any budget or money, so it's our bike. We know who supplies the parts for the engines, so all we have to do is go to the engine suppliers and get the parts ourselves. So they think they can support a Norton bike still at the TT. So it'll be interesting to see how that does. Kind of not holding my breath, but we'll see. Maybe it's the last time we'll see Norton in the TT, I don't know. But yeah, real shame that. And my heart goes out not only to people that had put money on deposits, but also to all the people that worked at Norton as well. There's no upside to that, is there? Alrighty, next story here. Updated Triumph Street Triple R due. Oh no, sorry, wrong story. Big BMWs to come with free trackers. There's the story down here. Now, the reason why I mention this one is, of course, it says come with free trackers. Of course, there is no such thing as a free tracker. It might come, these new big BMWs, in fact, all of the BMW range, bar the 310, so the very small end of the range, are going to get trackers from Datatool, pre-fitted, which is a great move. We all know there's an issue, particularly in this country, with bike theft. But of course, you do have to pay a subscription for these things. I'm not sure how much Data Tool pay, but on a couple of my bikes, I've got bike track trackers, which are excellent in terms of functionality, but they cost me over £100 a year just for the subscription. So I've got a couple of those, so it comes around the same time of year every year, over 200 quid just to keep those current. I far prefer the standalone trackers from the likes of Monimoto. I've got a video on Monimoto trackers again. If I remember, I'll put a link in the corner somewhere, and there's a link below in the description of this video as to where you can get Monimoto trackers. They cost about 100 quid to buy, and then it's only like 20 quid a year with a subscription for the SIM card that goes in it. Now those are, and they're self-contained, they don't run your batteries out either, so I'm a massive fan of those. If you're going to have a tracker, I'd say go for one of them. The functionality isn't as great as what you get with Data Tool or with Bike Track, but you pay a lot less for it for similar peace of mind. Anyway, there we go. I mentioned that in passing. It's good to see that some of the manufacturers are getting on board with fitting trackers. It's not so good that means there's an ongoing cost. I know Ducati as well, in some of their bikes, the big V4s also fit trackers. I think they might go with the Bike Track ones, but no such thing as a free tracker is all I'm saying there. All right, next, I'd be interested to see what you think actually about bike trackers. Are they worth installing? I mean, I was quite surprised when I got my Bike Track ones fitted. I partially did it because I thought it would help with my insurance quotes. Made no difference whatsoever. Insurance companies are interested to know that you've got a tracker fitted, but it doesn't actually put your premiums down, sadly, which is something I learned. Alrighty, next one here. New BUSA spied in patent leaks. This is great. MCN keep their eye on the patent books to see if manufacturers are putting new patents out. And Suzuki have been sniffing around with what looks like a new Hayabusa. So in recent months, several Suzuki patent applications have hinted at the next generation Hayabusa, what it looks like and the technology on board. The capacity, MCN say, will be hiked to around 1440cc, but power is likely to remain at around 200 horsepower. Of course, modern 1000cc superbikes, it says here, have caught up with Suzuki, so Suzuki are going to emphasise the bike's relative comfort and ability to swallow huge distances with minimal effort. So this is going to be a spaceship, super fast, super tourer basically. And these little hints we've got, the shape look quite nice. It still looks like a Hayabusa, but a sort of a better modernised form. MCN are saying expect to see the bike towards the end of 2020. Let's hope that means we're going to see it at the shows at the end of this year. And yeah, let's hope it follows suit. The Hayabusa are an iconic bike. I've never ridden one actually, but if they come out with a new one, I'd absolutely love to ride this. So let's wait and see what that looks like. So that's exciting. All right, and then last story in this paper, Twins Peak, the Ducati Panigale V2 is the last V-twin superbike. Is it also the connoisseur choice on the road, or the connoisseur's choice on the road? So this is the bike, the V2. It replaces the 959. The 959 replaced the 899 when they had to go Euro 4. This is now Euro 5. It's got a different exhaust again to the 959. This is a sort of short, stubby, almost underslung affair. Looks much better than the 959's one. Not quite as nice as the 899. And it's got the styling of the V4, which is a bit more brutal looking. I don't think it's quite as beautiful as the original Panigale, as I've said before. Also comes with a single-sided swing arm, which sort of apes the bigger bikes as well, which is a nice move. And this is saying here, it's the last remaining V-twin superbike on the planet, so it means it deserves to be treasured. I'm certainly keeping my 899. I love my 899. I don't suppose it rides as well as this. Haven't ridden one of these yet. Hope I'll get the chance to do so. But I think the 899 might be a future classic because there weren't so many made. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see if I get a crack on this. What's their verdict? Because MCN have ridden it. Let's see what they say. The Ducati Panigale V2 offers a hugely welcome alternative to the wealth of 200 brake horsepower four-cylinder hyperbikes. It's nicer, more willing and welcoming road bike than all of them as a result. So that's amazing. I rode the V4 about a year ago, and I thought it was a really easy bike to ride, even compared to my 899. They're saying now that the V2 has got the ease of use that the V4 now has as well, so it makes it a cracking road bike. You don't need more than 150 brake horsepower, do you? Which this one has, or thereabouts 140. They put it on a dyno actually. 140 brake horsepower, more than enough for the road. Looks beautiful, and of course you get a bit of a cost saving. Still 15 grand though, if you want one, so it's not a cheap option. In their verdict, they've said here, riding a V2 definitely isn't tinged with second string status. You're simply expressing your preference for something different and beautiful. And I, for one, love the sound of the V2 as well. Certainly if it sounds anything like my 899, which has got a real bark when you wind the thing up. Brilliant. Alrighty, so there we go. That's it for the second newspaper. Hope you're still with me. Quick swig of the old water. Right, next paper, 6 stories to whiz through here. First one, Triumph gives more for less. That's an unusual thing, isn't it? So the new Street 77765R has been announced. It's now, they brought this out because again it needs to be Euro 4 compliant. 116 brake horsepower. It's got some new styling on it, the same sort of styling as the RS got a few months back, so it's the new headlights. Oddly, a new two-way quick shifter as well. Triumph quick shifters are excellent, and on these sort of bikes they absolutely love them. Oddly, they've done away with the TFT and replaced it with the sort of dash that the old bike had, or one that looks very similar. This dash on here now is not dissimilar to the one on my 2012 Street Triple, although this one does have a fuel gauge, I'm glad to say. I personally don't think that's any bad thing. I think the TFTs on this Street Triple looks a bit noddy to me. It looks like something that Fisher-Price would have made. You may disagree, and I apologise if you own a Street Triple with a TFT and you love it, but I'm not a big fan, as I mentioned earlier, of TFTs generally, and I don't really like Triumph ones. There's only one Triumph one I've seen so far that I like, and that's on the new Tiger 900, but the one on the Street Triple, not too keen on. But anyway, on the R, they've gone back to the original dial, which I think is actually a step in the right direction. And as a result of things like that, the new bike is actually £400 cheaper than the £400 cheaper than the outgoing model. Isn't that something else? So you get a better bike with some new bits of bling on it, albeit without the TFT, and it's £400 cheaper. I think that's a great move. What else have they said here? Price tag 8,900, Euro 5 compliant, a revised stubby silencer. Oh yeah, little underslung exhaust there. Better looking, improved performance, and cheaper. Well, you can't want for more than that, can you? So well done, Triumph, for that one. Do you think it's a good move going back to the original Speedo and rev counter look rather than TFT? Be interested to hear your thoughts on that. Is TFT always better? I don't think it is. And in the case of Triumph, I've got on my Speed Twin, for example, I've got two twin dials on there. They look beautiful. They look like Swiss clocks. Whereas on the new Rocket 3, they've got that TFT off of the Scrambler, the big Scrambler. And I just think, again, it looks horrible. On bikes like the Rocket, I think, you know, a couple of clocks like on my Speed Twin would have been far better. I don't know why they've gone down that route. Anyway, interested in your views on that. Right, we talked about Norton earlier, and there's another story now. All the bad news is coming out about Norton now. My bike was found stripped is the headline here, and this is the story because from a guy called Ken Lawrence, who had ordered, or sorry, had already owned a V4 SS. He had taken it into Donington Hall, the factory, for some work to be done, and then all this shenanigans happened with Norton. He got a call from BDO, the representatives of the administrators of the company, and they said that his bike had been found at Donington Hall, but to brace himself because it wasn't in the condition that he might be expecting. And in fact, it was just stripped here. They got a before and after picture. That's how he took it in, and that's how he found it. It's basically no wheels, no seat, no tank. Basically, the bike had been stripped of everything, including its rear Odin suspension, its Brembo brakes, its dash, the subframe, the rear sets, the airbox, and exhaust. No one knows where those parts are. And the debate online has been that they've been used on other bikes to sell quickly to other punters. Don't know if that's true or not, but it doesn't smell right, does it? So the poor guy, having taken his bike in, I think just for a service or something, has ended up with just, you know, bits of a bike, and he hasn't got anywhere to go. Absolutely shocking. But there we go. Another blow here. Andrew Williams, apparently from Redruth, placed an order for an Atlas Ranger in 2018. He's been told by the administrators that there's little chance that his money will be refunded. Again, back to the point I made earlier, if you did your deposit on a credit card, you might be able to get it back via that route, but it doesn't look like you're likely to get it back via the administrators. Absolute shocker. Interesting thing here, rights sold to China in this little box here. It says here that Chinese giant Jinlang, or Hinlang, who makes scooters, have bought the intellectual property rights and tooling for the 961 engine. And Triumph, meanwhile, have gone on record saying that they've no interest in buying the brand. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. So looks like a Chinese firm are interested in the engine. So maybe bits of Norton will be sold off to other manufacturers. Sadly, not keeping it as a sub-brand under the Norton name. Somebody's bound to buy the Norton name only, I imagine, but and we'll see what happens in the future. But as it stands, it looks like Norton well and truly gone. And the bad news keeps rolling in, unfortunately. Alrighty, next story here down the bottom here. Bikes escape 2035 ban for now. Now this is the story that the government planned to ban the sale of petrol, diesel and hybrid engine powered cars in 2035. They're saying here that's not set to include motorbikes. Well, that's what they think. The reason why they say that is not clear. It says here that the Motorcycle Industry Association has said that motorcycles are outside the scope of the initial consultation, and due to the relatively small numbers of motorcycles on UK roads, apparently cars outnumber each bike by a factor of 25. They think that it may well be that motorcycles remain outside of the legislation. There's still a danger that bikes will be included at a later stage, but you know, it's a long way off 2035, isn't it? he says it's only 15 years. How quickly has the last 15 gone? But it looks like it might be that motorcycles are exempt from that. I don't know. I mean, let's face it, internal combustion engine bikes are going to be around certainly for the rest of my life. There's always going to be enthusiasts like me and you that want internal combustion engine bikes, and we'll be keeping the bikes that we've got now running. You know, in the same way as, you know, you still get steam engines running now, don't you? And no one's making those as far as I'm aware. So you know, all is not lost. We will still be seeing petrol bikes on the road, but we just won't be seeing brand new ones. Maybe, we'll see. Depends if indeed they are exempt. Sounds a bit unlikely to me. All right, next story in this paper. If I can find it. Here we go. Tribute Black is the last bullet. Royal Enfield story for you. Now, this is a splendid looking machine. This is the Bullet. And in fact, the one in the picture here is for the Indian market, but there's going to be apparently 1,000 of these available in Europe. Basically, the Bullet, which is a bike that's had the longest production run, continuous production run, it's been in production in some form since 1931, would you believe? That run is due to come to an end, which is a bit of a shame. And to mark the end of that, Enfield have produced what they're calling this end-of-line special, the Classic 500 Tribute Black, and it does look beautiful in black and gold. Black and gold always looks good on bikes. I don't know why all manufacturers aren't making those bikes, but here we are. Royal Enfield R. It's got a luxury saddle on it. It's got obviously the two-tone paint job and various other bits and pieces. In fact, you can spec it up a bit yourself to how you want. So bikes are built to order with price varying according to spec. But the normal Bullet, I think, costs 4,699. Sorry, the Classic 500 version of the Bullet is 4,699. So it's going to be in that sort of ballpark, probably a little bit more expensive because it is a special and built to order. But yeah, if you're a fan of the Bullet and you're a fan of the Classic 500, go and get down to your Royal Enfield dealer quickly if they're not already sold out, because you ain't going to be able to get them for much longer. But yeah, a bit of an end of an era, that in production since 1931. Absolutely incredible. Again, I've ridden the Classic 500 and the Bullet, and I have to say they are an interesting ride. That's code speak for actually pretty horrible. I mean, they're a lovely looking bike, but they are very agricultural. It's long overdue changing that bike out. Now Royal Enfield are making the 650 Twins, which are in a different league of performance, and they still have great character, but they're just much better bikes. This bike was always going to end soon. All right, next story here. Cruising for a bruising. Here we go. The Triumph Rocket 3R against Ducati's Diavel 1260S. One of these comparisons that MCN do on the MCN 250. I've recently given back an ex-Diavel to Ducati. I'll stick a link in the corner somewhere if I can to those reviews. Interesting bike. Was really interested and keen to have a go on it, but by the end of the run with that Diavel, actually, I decided I didn't like the bike very much. Haven't ridden the Rocket 3 yet, and I've been on at Triumph for ages about whether I can actually get a ride on one of these things. And I've talked about it before, I think on Bike News, in fact, about that. I'm really glad to say Triumph have pulled out all the stops and are going to be lending me one of these in the next 2 weeks. Just for a short loan, but it is, I haven't said a short loan, it's not like an hour, it's a few days, so I'm going to have it, I think, for getting on for a week. So really looking forward to riding the Rocket 3, and I think it is the 3R. It might even be this very bike that you see pictured here, because Triumph told me they've only got one on the press fleet, and this is the press. So I suspect it's that very bike I'm going to be having for a week. Cannot wait to ride it. Really glad it's the R model, because that's the one with the pegs in the middle, and that was one of the things I didn't like about the Ducati X Diavel. I sat on this bike at the MCN show at the weekend, or last weekend I should say, and I have to say I prefer the R over the GT, which is the more touring focused one where your feet are forward. So really looking forward to having a go on this. So what I intend to do not only is make a few videos on the Rocket 3 itself, which I know many of you have been asking about, but I'll also try and make a comparison video between the R and the lessons I learned with the Diavel, albeit the X Diavel as well, because I know these two bikes are sort of the same genre. Certainly MCN agree with me, because they've done this comparison here. Let's have a look at their verdict. If I can find it, here we are. So, although both of the bikes are marketed as performance cruisers, they're very different in how they deliver that definition. Which is better? For sheer road presence, you have to hand it to the remarkable Triumph Rocket 3, which, although enormous, also manages to be tremendous fun to ride, attention-grabbing and beautifully styled and designed. It is also excessive to the extreme, but what else did you expect? So they're saying they like the Rocket. Actually, up in the little verdict bit here, they say at just shy of 20,000, the Rocket 3R is undeniably a substantial investment, but you get a bike bike that is guaranteed to deliver a memorable experience whenever you take it out. So they're saying that the Rocket 3 is the more memorable bike. I'll draw my own conclusions when I've got to ride it, but yeah, really looking forward to riding that. It's an absolute beast, isn't it? A brute of a bike. Already mentioned the TFT. I don't like the look of that, but other than that, everything else about it I do like the look of. So cannot wait to get on that in about a week's time. So stay tuned to the channel for that. Right, and then the last story in this paper, tested Triumph Tiger 900 GT Pro. It still feels like a Tiger, but a better one. So the Tiger 900 bike I'm really, again, excited to ride. Haven't got a date from Triumph, but again, and I'm pretty positive that they will help me out getting a ride on a Tiger 900 over an extended period of time, because I've ridden the Tiger 800 extensively. More about that later. I really liked it, actually. I really gel with that bike. And let's face it, the 900 is they're not going to make they're not going to step backwards, are they, with a new bike? So it's going to be even better than the 800. So really, can't wait to have it going. I think it looks great. It's a little bit lighter than some of the bigger adventure bikes. Could this be a bike that replaces my GS in the long term? I don't know. All right, what have I highlighted here? The design brief meant that the bike, I like this, needed to be more agile, more stable, more powerful, but lighter. Better on and off-road, more comfortable with longer range, reduced servicing costs, better equipped, and with a wider range of accessories. So not much of an arse there then. If they've done all that, then they will have come up with an amazing bike. Let's whiz over to the verdict and see what their first ride verdict is on this. Before we do that, actually, look, there's some pictures down here. This is the TFT I mentioned. I said that I don't like Triumph TFTs, but this is the one TFT I've seen that Triumph made that actually does look quite good. This looks like a proper professional bit of kit, not like something Fisher-Price would have designed. So looking forward to trying it in the flesh, but it looks pretty nice. It's got Brembo Stylema brakes on it now, which is the top of the line Brembo brakes. It's got a smaller exhaust, obviously got the new engine with the quick shifter as well, restyled lights. I just think it looks lovely. Comes in a couple of flavours as well. There's the 900 Rally Pro, which I think looks best, which is the green one, more off-road focused. And then the red one here in these pictures is the standard 900, which is the more road focused bike. But don't care which one I have a go on, I think they look great. Anyway, their verdict: the new Tiger 900 is a really impressive package, and the GT Pro is arguably the pick of the bunch for riders who will never venture off tarmac. GT Pro, sorry, that's the one that I would probably want. Revised engine characteristics and extra power make it more engaging and better for pillions than the old bike, and the chassis dynamics are better all round. But maybe the most impressive thing is that, despite sharing no components with the outgoing 800 model, that's impressive, no components, it still feels just like a mid-range Tiger, just a better mid-range Tiger. So MCN like it on their initial rides. They've been out to the launch in Morocco, I think, not Morocco, in Portugal the launch was, and very flattered and pleased to say that Triumph invited me out to that. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. I was already out in Spain. Tough life, isn't it, on another ride. Really, really nice looking bike. Cannot wait to give that a go. And as I say, verdict have promised me I can have a go. So look forward to that. Right, one more paper to go. Nearly there. Right, hopefully the battery will last. I'm still using a GoPro to record this, by the way. Last month, you might remember, I had problems with my new GoPro 8 overheating during this. This is the Hero 4 I'm doing this on, and I'm sure I'll get complaints again about the wide angle, because I always get them. But this one doesn't overheat. It's just so much more solid than the GoPro 8. Anyway, I digress. Right, last few stories here. This bike here, four-wheeled R1, is a lean machine. This thing is absolutely nuts. This is a bike made from a company called Lazarus. It's got an R1 engine in it. It's got four wheels that sort of tilt and lean, a bit like the Nikon, but in a four-wheeled state. Don't know what makes this difference to a car in that case, but let's face it, the thing is mean looking, isn't it? Who would want one? I've no idea. And who would want to spend 84 grand? I've no idea. I don't know if there's a market for this, but I like that it exists and it just looks cool as hell. If I had the chance to ride it, I'd definitely do that, but again, don't think I'd buy one. It's got a 998cc R1 motor from Yamaha, so you know, we all know that's a good motor. £84,116 is how much it will cost you. Funny number, but that's because that's just 100,000 euros in pounds. It's got this tilting mechanism built in. Don't know if it will stand up on its own right, but it does tilt, so all wheels grip to the road as you go around the corner, which is nice. And there's only going to be 10 of them, so it's going to be pretty exclusive. So if you've got a spare 84 grand knocking about and you fancy a four-wheel motorcycle, which to my mind makes it a car, there's your thing. Brilliant. All right, swiftly moving on. Yet more bad vibes about Norton. I think it's been in every paper this month. Such a shame, especially, you know, given this time last year we were all singing the praise of Norton. Now suddenly they're the bad boys and getting a real kicking. Norton CEO Stuart Garner failed to attend a hearing held to investigate 30 complaints regarding pension schemes he was trustee of between 2012 and 2018. Last month we talked about the pension scheme fiasco, where the pension scheme seems to have been dipped into by Norton to use in their manufacturing business, whereas it should have been ring-fenced in the pension schemes, and they fell foul of the regulator as a result of that. Well, there was a hearing this month, as you heard, and Stuart Gardner didn't turn up. It says here, the money from the pension schemes was invested in Norton motorcycles, which went into administration on January the 29th. The pensions ombudsman is expecting to make a ruling in 3 months' time, so another 3 months to decide, in fact, whether there's a judgment against Stuart Gardner personally, which would be a criminal thing, which doesn't put him in a good position. So I hesitate to say I feel sorry for Stuart Gardner, because clearly he's a wealthy man and he's made some mistakes, but nobody goes to do this sort of thing purposely, do they? So I do have a bit of a, having met the guy, he seems a nice guy. He's made some errors, there's no doubt about that, and a lot of people are pretty act off with him, but all round, as I said before, there's no upside to this story. Garner did not respond to an invitation to comment. He has previously said that he did not know he was dealing with fraudsters when creating the pension schemes, and he considers himself to be a victim. Make what you like of that. So yeah, the Norton story rumbles on. We're going to hear more about that yet, I'm sure. Right, Brough wows London. This is the Brough Superior that we showed, again, I think it was the last bike news or the one before, where they've teamed up with Aston Martin to produce this bike. At the time I said I thought it was a bit ridiculous and it didn't look very Aston Martin-y, but I've now seen this in the flesh, because weekend before last it was the London Bike Show at the Excel Centre. I did have a quick glimpse at this on one of the stands there, and I have to say, when you see it in the flesh, the thing looks amazing. It's actually beautifully built, and there is a bit of Aston Martin about it, so I'm sort of highlighting it here to take back everything I said before. I absolutely loved it. It does look amazing in the flesh. If you saw it too, be interested to see if you thought it was actually all right. Previously I just thought it was a bit nuts, but now, lovely bit of kit. It's definitely a work of art. It's the sort of thing that somebody buys to put in their living room. I don't suppose it'll ever be ridden, but I mentioned it in passing because I sort of had a bit of a go about it last time, and actually now I haven't seen it. It's a nice bit of kit, so well done the guys at who produced the Aston Brough. Very, very nice indeed. Alrighty, next up, 650 Scrambler is biggest mash yet. Now this is a mash 650. I just think this looks super cool. There are a number of these bike manufacturers around, people like Herald and, well, there are others too. There's a French one, maybe this is the French one, Mash. I get them all a bit confused, to be honest, but these are manufacturers that historically have bought in parts from China and then assembled bikes, added their own sort of magic to it, and made really good value for money bikes that tend to be kind of scramblers and have tended to be at the sort of 125 end of the market. Well, Mash have now got this 650cc bike, which sounds bloody amazing, and it looks very much MCN here is saying it apes a bit the old 70s Yamaha XT 500, and I sort of agree with the high mudguard, and it looks like a proper scrambler should look, doesn't it? I really like the look of this. 647cc 4-valve singles, that's going to be a big old thumper. It's, what else does it say here? 40 brake horsepower at 6,000 RPM, so not massive numbers, but it is a single. It's going to be torquey as hell. Cycle parts are improving, it says here, along with alloy rimmed wheels, which look great in the gold, I think. Beefy front disc, radially mounted 4-piston brake caliper, and the swing arm looks impressively beefy too, which it does indeed. Price is yet to be confirmed, but we expect around £5,000. So this bike, the 650, you'll be able to get for the same sort of price as a Royal Enfield 650, for example. Suddenly, there are bikes in the mid-range that are becoming affordable again. Time will tell as to what the quality is like, because again, I assume the 650 is still Chinese sourced, but it absolutely looks the business. I don't know how you get to ride Mash bikes. I don't know where the dealers are, but maybe one day I'll get a go, but it certainly looks lovely. Got a nice little minimalist clock here. It looks like things like the indicators and the levers are all good quality. But, you know, thumbs up in terms of the looks of it. We'll see what it actually rides like once somebody's ridden one and written a review, but it really looks good. Excited to see more bikes like that coming on the market. Okay, a letter here I wanted to read out in the talking point of the pages. Forget the tech and just get riding is this letter from somebody called Paul Bredell. Paul wrote in and said, in effect, am I the only motorcyclist left in the world who doesn't give a monkeys about colour TFT dashes? No, you're not, Paul, because I don't give a monkeys about them either. So just agreeing with you there. I do wonder sometimes whether, you know, manufacturers are always need to bring out the next best thing, don't they? It seems every year they need to give some sort of update to bikes, and giving them a TFT screen, it seems to be the thing that currently is what they're doing. Who knows? I mean, I'm, as I said earlier on, I'm not a massive fan of TFTs per se, and on some bikes I'd rather see dials. Some bikes do it well, the BMW one I like, the Yamaha one I like, some don't do it so well. like some of the Triumph ones, although they look like they're getting better with the 900, as I said earlier. We'll see, but anyway, is it just me? Am I just an old stick in the mud? Am I an old-fashioned Luddite for not liking TFTs? Or, you know, are you the same too? Let me, or tell me, I'll be interested to hear. Make me feel better by agreeing. Okay, and then last but not least of the stories, before we get to Parish Notices that I promised at the start of the video, Kawasaki Z H2, Dawn of the Hyper Naked. This is this new bike that Kawasaki announced a couple of months back. MCN have now ridden it. It's an absolutely nuts machine. Naked bike with 197 brake horsepower supercharged. I mean, it's going to be a rocket bike, but are you going to be able to experience that power very much when it's basically a naked bike? It's going to rip your arms off and your neck. Kawasaki Z H2 is the most powerful naked we've ever swung a leg over, is what MCN say. Why a super naked needs to have quite so much power is unclear. I agree with them there, but they did say that it is addictive, and the supercharger apparently chirps like a deranged budgie, which has got to be a good thing, isn't it? It's weight-wise, it's 239 kilograms full of fuel, so it's certainly not a lightweight beast, is it? And its top whack is around 175 miles per hour, apparently. It says here, though, with little wind protection, you won't be visiting those naughty numbers for long, and I agree with them there. The reason I've pulled it out, really, is just to show you the second page here and these pictures of it. I mentioned it before, but when you look at these pictures, does this look like a nice bike to you? Certainly on paper it sounds impressive, doesn't it, all those numbers, although of course whether it's usable as a naked bike I don't know, but I just think it does look bloated. The front end of it just looks horrible. Again, is it just me, or is this a good looking bike? I don't think it is. I don't know what Kawasaki are doing with that. It's a shame because it's got a lot of promise, but so far the supercharged bikes that Kawasaki have come out with, they don't float my boat. Sorry, lamb chops, I know you're a fan. Alrighty, there we go. So that's it for the newspapers. I said I'd give you some parish notices. So this is some stuff that I just want to tell you about the channel, some stuff that's coming up, because I don't get a chance to tell you these things very often. So first off, you may have noticed at the start of this video, new logo on the start of the video, because I've got a new sponsor, BUSA. And I'm really chuffed about this. BUSA are, I think they're based in Japan, but they actually have a manufacturing facility here in the UK, in Wales. In fact, they've got a factory, and they've got a massive sales presence down in Swindon as well. And in fact, it turns out they're the biggest battery manufacturer in the world. The only market they don't move in is domestic stuff, so they don't compete with the likes of Duracell. But certainly, if you bought a new motorcycle, the chances are it's probably got a BUSA battery in it. So I'm really chuffed that BUSA look like they might be coming on board. It's kind of a 3-month trial they're doing with me. If it goes well, then I'm hoping they're going to stick around. The great thing for me is it's one of those sponsors that doesn't mean that, it doesn't affect my impartiality at all when I'm doing bike reviews, because all bikes have BUSA batteries in pretty much, as I say, we know we all need batteries. It's something that can only be good for my channel, I think, so that's fantastic. And they give me access to things like, they're technical experts and stuff. There'll be at least one video coming up in the next month looking at batteries specifically, and that's because I've managed to get some input from BUSA on that. So thank you, BUSA, for coming on board. You will be seeing their logo on my videos at least over the next 3 months, so that's what that's all about. Just thought I should tell you. Merchandise, just a quick word about that. You'll notice I'm wearing one of my splendid TMF hoodies. This is one of the hoodies that you can buy from my website only. This isn't from Teespring. Now I mention that because you can I've got merchandise on both Teespring, which is the little curly red spring you see in the corner of my main YouTube page, and sometimes you see advertised on what's called the merch shelf underneath my videos. Those are from Teespring. They get made to order all around the world, and that's a YouTube hookup thing. But these are made by a separate manufacturer here in the UK. You can only buy these from my website. So if you go to themissingtonflyer.com, you'll be able to see not only these hoodies, which are 30 quid, I think, but t-shirts, stickers, mugs, things like that you can buy. And they're a different quality to Teespring. I think they're better. Go and check them out if you're at all interested. As I say, themissingtonflyer.com is my website. I mention it because the two have been getting confused. So people have, ordered from, say, Teespring and then have gone to this company to ask where their sweatshirt is, that sort of thing. So anyway, just mention that in passing. So yeah, my merch is different to Teespring, but they're both still available depending on your want. Want to tell you what's coming up in the next month between now and the next bike news. So next Monday, I'm going to be showing you a video that I filmed only last week actually in Spain. I'm doing some off-roading on the GS. I explain in the video why I'm doing the off-roading. I do fall off a few times, at least one of which I get on video, so it's worth watching for that alone, although it's a bit of a schoolgirl fall off, it has to be said. But that's coming next Monday, so if one of those people that always says to me, why don't you go off-road on the GS, This should shut you up, because I am. Then there's my last video on the Diavel, my final ride on that. That finally goes back to Ducati. So that's coming up. I've got the first of my next big tour. I hope you watch the Slovenia tour. I know some people said it went on too long and there were too many episodes, etc. Park that. I enjoyed it. Hopefully some of you did. Well, I know some of you did because you told me. But there's a new tour coming up. So in a week or two, you'll see the first episode of my new epic tour for this year, which is touring in Thailand. I took Mrs. Fly on the back of a Triumph Tiger 800. We went through the jungles in Thailand with our new friends Paul and Bo. I think there's 7 episodes to that one. They're half an hour each, so a little bit longer than the Slovenia episodes, but there's much more focus on the in-between biking bits. So there's a bit of riding, then there's some stuff we did, then there's a bit of riding, there's some stuff we did, and there's all sorts of fun and games goes on, all sorts of weather, all sorts of terrain. I think it's a cracking series if you like my tour videos. Even if you don't like my tour videos, go and watch it because you might like this one. Really pleased with that, so we'll look out for that coming up soon. Then on Monday the 12th, that's when I get my hands on the Rocket 3, or that's certainly when you'll see my first Rocket 3 video. So I've been looking forward to riding one of these for absolutely months. I so hope it delivers, and it's not like the Diavel was, which I was a little bit disappointed with. We'll see in the case of the Rocket 3, so that's coming. And I've got the first of the UASA specific videos coming up as well. I'm going to be talking about motorcycle battery myths, top 5 motorcycle battery myths, I think the video's called. Haven't made it yet, but it will be up by the end of the month, so look out for that one as well. Just before we wrap up, I must say thank you to all my sponsors, as ever, and in particular thank you to my members and Patreons. Often people ask me, do you prefer members on the website or Patreons? I don't mind either. If you want to do either, that'd be fantastic. I have a little bit of a preference for Patreon because you can do a little bit more with it. But if you are so inclined, do sign up for my Patreon. It'd be great to have you along. And also, just thank you to you for watching the channel. If if you keep watching, I'll keep making the videos. Alrighty, that's it for this time. Hope you enjoyed another Bike News. Hope I haven't gone on too long. I think it's going to be about 40 minutes worth. Should have been time to put your feet up and relax. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. And until then, this has been the Listen and Fly. Cheerio.